Hello and welcome back to Nerd Doc. This video explains the plot and ending to Everything Everywhere All at Once. The film is currently in limited release, but expands to movie theaters over the next 2 weeks and should be almost everywhere by April 8th. If you've not seen the movie, I highly recommend it. It's basically a Marvel Studios movie with an A24 film hidden inside. It's amazing. Anyway, this isn't a review, so let's get on with the show. There will be spoilers for Everything Everywhere All at Once, so if you don't want to be spoiled, now is the time to like and subscribe, then come back after you've seen the movie. There's room for interpretation in the meaning of the film, so if you have any questions about the movie or believe there's an alternate meaning to the film beyond what's in this video, leave a comment below. There are also chapter timestamps if you want to jump straight to the ending explanation and skip the plot recap. Everything Everywhere All at Once focuses on the Wang family and the multiverse. It's probably the best and craziest multiverse film you'll see before Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We cover the plot of Multiverse of Madness in another video, which we'll link below if you're interested. Wayman and Evelyn Wang are married, own a struggling laundromat located below their home, and have a daughter named Joy. Evelyn's father, Gong Gong, is visiting, but generally disapproves of his daughter's choices in life, including her marriage, moving to the US, and her lack of commitment to almost everything she does. Meanwhile, Joy is struggling to live up to her mother's expectations. She has a girlfriend who her mother is accepting of, but still isn't really overly supportive. Her mother won't tell her grandfather that Joy's dating a woman and instead calls her Joy's friend. Joy isn't even sure if her girlfriend is allowed to attend the party her mom is holding for her grandfather that night. Evelyn's husband Wayman is very carefree and just wants everyone to be happy. He annoys his wife, and the relationship has been strained for years, but he still tries to smile every day. As the movie begins, the laundromat is being audited by the IRS, and Evelyn is trying to organize all of the receipts and paperwork requirements. Meanwhile, Wayman is trying to serve Evelyn divorce papers, but it's not that cut and dry. Wayman doesn't actually want to divorce his wife. One of his friends gave their wife divorce papers, and that forced them to actually sit down and talk about their marriage, which really turned things around for them. Wayman is hoping for the same outcome, and even though he doesn't really want a divorce, he's still thinking of Evelyn, trying to wait until she isn't super busy before he gives her the papers. Evelyn, Wayman, and Gong Gong head to the IRS building and get in the elevator. It's here where the movie truly begins. Wayman's mind is taken over by a variant from the multiverse, specifically from the Alphaverse. Alpha Wayman tells Evelyn a very quick rundown of what's going on, writes down instructions on the backside of Wayman's divorce papers, then tells Evelyn to meet him in the janitor's closet. Before we go any further, let's stop and explain how the multiverse works in the movie. There are an infinite number of universes or timelines, with each decision someone makes creating a new branch in the timeline. It's actually very similar to the multiverse in the MCU as explained in the Loki series. The people of the Alphaverse discovered a way to jump from one timeline into the consciousness of yourself in another timeline. With a little help from technology that looks like a Bluetooth headset, if you do something completely random and out there, it allows you to shift into a neighboring timeline, meaning one that is almost identical to your existing timeline with only minor differences. You can then use this jump like a slingshot to move over to a much more varied and therefore distant timeline. As an example, at the IRS office, Alpha Wayman tells Evelyn to put her shoes on the wrong feet, which is random and a little bit out there, but not by much. It gets way more out there as the movie progresses. This kind of fractures her consciousness in a way and allows her to still be at the IRS meeting, but also in the janitor's closet in an alternate timeline all at the same time, sort of. At this point, she can subconsciously jump back and forth between the two realities, but she doesn't have very good control over it. You can't be 100% focused on both timelines at the same time, but with practice, you can jump between them at will. Once you've got the hang of verse jumping, as they call it, you can use the knowledge and skills of alternate timeline versions of yourself. Because these are branching timelines, with every decision you make, there's a version of you that can do almost anything. In Evelyn's case, if she said no to marrying Wayman and moving to the US, one possibility is that she would have become a martial arts master and international movie star along the lines of Bruce Lee. She can call upon the knowledge of that Evelyn variant and suddenly becomes a martial arts master herself. She basically jumps to her variant, pulls out the skills she needs from their mind, and uses it herself without ever leaving her current reality. In the alternate timeline janitor's closet, Alpha Wayman gives a broader explanation of what's going on. Basically, in the Alphaverse, Evelyn pushed Joy to the extreme, trying to see how far this multiversal consciousness sharing can go. Joy's mind kind of broke, and now she has access to all realities at the same time, calling upon whatever skills and abilities she needs whenever she needs them. This makes her extremely powerful, having access to an infinite amount of knowledge and skill, but also means she's never truly in the moment and constantly jumping around between timelines. This version of Joy is known as Jobu Tupaki, and she has a loyal group of followers. Jobu has been destroying timeline after timeline. At first, the Alphaverse thinks she's just evil and wants to destroy the multiverse as a whole, but that's not actually the whole story. As we get into the end of the movie, Jobu reveals that she's been looking for an Evelyn variant that has the same abilities as her. Throughout the movie, Evelyn understands verse jumping more and more, realizing that she needs to have the same powers as Jobu if she's going to win that fight. However, once Evelyn has Jobu's powers, we learn that Jobu had no intention of fighting her. Jobu was hoping that her mom would be able to find meaning to her life. She believes that when you're never in the moment for more than a few seconds at a time, nothing matters anymore. Jobu put everything on a bagel, which created a black hole-like object that she hopes can end her life in suffering. To clarify, she put everything on a bagel. All possible toppings and every bit of reality she could find is what created this black hole bagel. That means dogs, cats, trees, grass, everything. At first, Evelyn agrees with Jobu that nothing matters in their current situation. That's not to say nothing matters at all, just that nothing matters when you have the power to jump between realities, meaning you're only in one place for a short amount of time before you jump to another reality. One of the main realities Evelyn continued to jump to was the one in which she becomes an international movie star and martial arts master. In this timeline, she never married Wayman, but he showed up at one of her movie premieres. They end up talking outside, and Wayman basically tells her that he's not just an annoying idiot who gets in the way and can't seem to do anything right. Wayman loves Evelyn, and to him, it doesn't matter what they're doing as long as they're doing it together. He wants everyone to be happy, so everything he does for that reason. This revelation causes Evelyn to realize that something does matter. Everyone has something that means the world to them. For Wayman, it's Evelyn and his family. For Evelyn, it's her family as well, Wayman and Joy. Instead of directly fighting off Jobu's followers, Evelyn helps him find happiness. She also saves Jobu from the black hole bagel by causing her to realize that she loves her mother despite their differences. During this exchange, Evelyn tries to make things right by telling her father about Joy's girlfriend, but it only causes Joy to lash out even more. They have an argument in the parking lot of the laundromat, and Joy comes to realize that family matters. Even though Joy fights with her parents, even though she doesn't feel as though she can live up to her mother's expectations, her mother still loves her, and Jobu still searched for her in every reality, hoping she would have the answers she was looking for. There's a lot to take away from Everything Everywhere All at Once. First off, happiness is one of the most important things in life. If you're not happy, nothing else matters. Evelyn helped Jobu and her followers find happiness, and that stopped the violence and turned their whole world upside down. Secondly, family matters, and more broadly, who you spend your time with matters. It doesn't matter what you're doing with your life at any given time, it matters who you're with when you're doing it. Evelyn wasn't happy in her life, feeling like a failure, never fully committing to any of her hobbies, but Wayman helped her realize that it doesn't matter what you're doing with your life, so long as you're doing it with people who make you happy, family, friends, or otherwise. At a more macro level, the film tells us that every decision you make matters. It doesn't matter how big or how small, each decision you make has an impact on your life. The main version of Evelyn dropped almost all of her hobbies and was the biggest failure out of any Evelyn in any timeline. But it was all those failures that allowed her to be the one to embody the knowledge and skills of every other Evelyn variant and stop Jobu. Without all these failures, she would not have been able to save the multiverse and her daughter. Everything we do matters, even our failures. All the failures from your youth made you into the person you are now. Without those failures, your life would have been different for better or worse. That's what we got out of the movie. If you have any other thoughts on the meaning of the film or have questions on specific scenes or the movie as a whole, leave a comment below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves the multiverse.